I go by Jess or Nyara?
That's the thing. I'm kind of both people.
You know?
So.
Nemesis. Do I go by Keya or Nemesis?
Exactly. Man. Or Nicholas.
That's a long story. No, Nicholas. No, Nicholas. I'm changing my name, actually. When I'm old enough to change it without hurting any parental feelings.
Just you go by Nyara, the migrant sometimes. The immigrant, sorry.
Yeah. Well, I only go by the immigrant because the Nyara handle was already taken on Instagram.
Really?
Yeah.
By another artist?
Yeah, I think so. Or just another person, because it's, it's a word that's in a few different languages. I keep finding out. People keep coming to me with what Nyara means to them in their
What language. Are the ones that stand out for you that really put weight to the name?
Well, in Munyankole, I think Munyara means to pee or to come.
Oh, Kunyara.
Yeah, or Kunyara or Munyara. They have a few different additions.
Okay. Interesting.
There's a Randy's right off of that one, which is Kunyaza, which is it's like not cunnilingus. It's
something to do with like ejaculation and stuff
for female ejaculation.
For females, right? Which I'm not so mad about, I guess.
That's the one that you picked first, because I asked the meanings that put the most weight to the name for you.
That's
number one.
I think that's the most shocking. Other people have been like, "Oh, it means you're loved," or "Oh, it means a flower," or something like that.
My friends mostly know me as Nemesis. Or Keya Nemesis.
Is that because you met most of your friends once you had already become a musician?
Well, I was a musician you could say professionally, from when I was 13. Most of my friends anyway wanted to be, they wanted to relate with the cool part of me, which I also, wanted.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then as I grew older, I started to really understand why I felt iffy about Nicholas, and made up my mind about it.
Yeah. Well, for me, it's exactly the opposite. I made all of my friends as Jess.
Wow.
And so now, the only people who know me as Nyara are people within the performing arts community that I met in the past, 2 years?
How long have you been going by the name Nyara?
Not that long. I think I started using it in 2015 because I was a part of a music sort of group that required me to have a name. And so that's when my older sister gave me that name. She was like, "We're going to call you Nyara."
But that being said, it's always interesting how people... There's a phase you go through trying to find a name. Did you have that? Like, did you pick some names and maybe your sister was like, "Nah, that's not working"?
Well, I talked to her about it because she's my older sister. She's someone that I look up to, someone that I've gone to for advice, someone whose opinion that I value. Yeah. So,
in my language, it means daughter.
Right. It means that's Luo, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's.
And I always relate with that more because, like, for me, that's the most obvious meaning.
Right.
To the name.
And that's actually what my name means. My sister gave it to me. Her name is Lillian. She's Acholi. She's my older sister, and she's the one who gave me that name, and she gave it to me in her language, which is Luo. So when I say my name Nyara, I'm saying it in Luo, which means my daughter.
Yes. What are the things that greatly influenced the artist that you have become and the artist that you want to be?
In regards to both music and
both
dance?
Music and dance.
That's a lot of
but let's go with the top 3 influences.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, anytime that I'm looking for inspiration, I go into my notes in my phone. I actually did that a few days ago because I was trying to write a hook for somebody.
Is that like a journal you keep, or?
I guess I actually didn't ever see it as a journal, but now that you say the word journal, it kind of is. I scroll 2014, and I read the shit that I wrote, and I'm like, whoa, That's good.
Okay.
So I am actually really inspired by my past self, I guess. And anyone who knows me knows that I'm not actually obsessed with myself at all, as narcissistic as that sounds. But like whenever I'm writing, a lot of times I draw from the things that I've written in moments in time and based on experiences that I've had. And especially in writing, that's where I get most of my inspiration.
There are always experiences that they spark something in you, and you'll just
I'll write something down.
Nemesis.
Yeah.
Would you approach it the same way? Most of the time, you're a guy who goes, you kind of execute things in the moment, but there's always a thought process before that. Is that the same thing?
Well, I would say that along the way, I found myself like that. And it's something I held on to and still keep on to today. It's just that my phones keep breaking. So actually, because my phones kept breaking, I had to get another technique of writing. It's actually kind of like a blessing in disguise. Because I had been drawn into that technique. It's quite handy, just looking at yourself from different you could say something, or I could be watching a movie and like there's this thing I was watching and this guy said, bingo, mula. And I put it down, I wrote it down, and then I was like, wow, I want the accent too. So I recorded it, but it's in the phone that broke now. So it's like, I had to evolve myself from that.
I think writing, generally speaking, is just taking record, right? And if you're like, I mean, even for me, most of the times, like, I used to do the same. Like, I would either hum a melody or like write something down. Nowadays, it really just it sticks in my head, and it will never go away. It will nudge me until I do it, and then maybe it's like I don't have too much memory, too much brain memory to keep all the ideas. So every time something hits me, I have to execute it. But that's also mostly because, like, again, the phone thing, right? Like, I didn't have a very good medium to, like,
storing device.
Exactly, to keep all these ideas. So then I just started, like, every time something comes, I have to find a way of just making sure it's on proper record. So, but then also the same thing just said earlier, and you also said about going back to looking back at yourself.
Yeah, moments of yourself.
And you're like, it's interesting how I was thinking.
But I actually like Jess's more because it seems like for you, from what I understand, is for you it's more of an experience for you. Whereas to me, it's more of an experience I draw from my environment. But it seems like for the way Jess puts her memoirs down or her writing down is the angle is usually tight towards her own person. So, which as a writer I think I can get, because it means when you're going to do something creatively, you will always have your authentic self driving it
and a personal connection to the material.
So because it's something you told me, Wana, before, when you said I'd like you to do an album when you're just singing. And it's because I discovered that, okay, I have a tone, but not necessarily singing, because I felt like singing is professional and it's vocals and shit.
Too professional.
So I felt like I have a tone, but it's not necessarily singing. It just sounds good. But yeah, seeing something and getting it within the pocket takes your own personal, your own personal conviction. And that's something I dig, because with me, I have to convince myself that, okay, I can use it in my arsenal, not necessarily that it's part of me, which for you, I feel like it's part of me.
Everything that I write is a part of me.
Yeah.
Even if I write about other characters, it's characters that I directly relate with.
For me, Mula Bingo is like a 50 caliber, bullet. And I'm like, wow, this shit will do good for that song.
You're like a little parrot.
Yeah, I'm like, cool.
For me, it's very rarely is it about a personal experience. Same thing, I might be watching a movie, but it's like anything I consume, right, always influences me in a certain way.
Actually, that's the way I see it.
So when I'm making music, it's not that I'm directly drawing off something, in that
For the purpose of it,
exactly,
creatively.
I'll make something and I'm like, how and where has this come from? Right? And like I'm sometimes I'll obsess about it and really think about like why, because I'm like, I like it. I have no idea where this came from.
Like it was downloaded from the gods.
Exactly. Just like, something happened.
Sometimes it's even those two different roads. When the amnesia of feeling like I don't know where this comes from, but obviously comes from me, from somewhere in time, also
Somewhere
helps you creatively.
subconscious.
But also knowing exactly where it comes from also has its own,
Yeah.
thing to do with. Because then your eyes are more on the ground.
Yeah.
Come to think of it, when I was a battle rapper, I remember having to impress the crowd more than once, especially if they've seen you before and they've seen you, let's say, for freestyling.
Yeah.
Then you have to impress them either at the same level or above the other level. And it's not always something you do, because as a battle rapper, I remember we had to go into something we called the zone, where the beat and the words coming out of your mouth and how fast your mind is putting together the words
Processing the words.
is
Right.
almost as if it's just flawless. So the timing,
There's no glitch.
yeah,
And that's a real skill.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily pick the word and know it just almost happens because it's happening.
Yeah.
But that's
Yeah.
not an everyday thing. So as someone who had to perform at the best of my ability, I remember having to write like lines that I would call takeoff lines. So picture plane.
once you pick that,
Once I 1, 2, 3 lines and I'm up in the air, then I know I can draw off the crowd from what's happening, and then I will actually freestyle and probably go into a zone.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've always been fascinated about how people actually freestyle. I can't freestyle
That's why
for shit.
I have never tried rapping. I don't even bother. Just the thought of getting a brain freeze, that it freaks me out.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that you could also call it improv. As a dancer, I would understand that as improv. And improv is just what comes out of you in the moment,
Yeah.
and then it all kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just, when it comes to words and concept, it just goes right over my head, and I'm like one of those kids at a magic show, like, wow, that was amazing.
Should I tell you how
I don't know how he does it.
how it feels like for me is I remember getting a reputation as a really good freestyler and battle rapper, but it's because people didn't know my method, because according to me, I'm actually not that good a freestyler, because I had to write lift-off lines. But I never admitted that to anyone. So of course I would freestyle, but the first 1, 2, 3 that would get you and use
Isn't
you
that
as my
always the
launch pad.
case?
Well, I don't know about other
I
people
feel
who
like
freestyle. But I don't know. But to me, I always felt like I'm not 100% that person you think
that's
I am.
the reason why, like, you find things like, say, the 5 fingers of death, right? It's because those words you're given are your lift-off lines.
True.
So you pick off that and you go.
True, but that's more cut. That's more impulsive. It's more like dog. But my lift-off lines were thought out. They were context.
Premeditated.
1, 2, 3, leading up to anything, but anywhere, something evasive, but that the crowd will, witty things that the crowd might give me a reaction, and then I write off that. Before I had to write lift-off lines, if I was listening to someone, again, like what you said about the parody thing, I think I just had to evolve that thing in too many ways, because I realized it was a handicap. Listening to Jess and sounding like Jess, listening to Wana and sounding like Wana. Instead, I split the screen and figure out how to draw from all of them. But when it comes to freestyling, you have all that resource, but how do you jam pack it into that one beat, and how you're going to do it it's impossible.
And in time.
So I felt like I have to commit suicide creatively you know, like jumping off a bridge and you free fall, like you just going, you know, you hold the mic, everyone's looking at you, and you're like, here goes nothing, and you just jump.
Isn't that the same thing with singing? Sometimes, most times actually, even when you're writing, your next melody and your next clever word.
Yeah, you don't know where it's coming from.
Only as good as the one that you had before.
Yeah, so
but at least
freestyle.
I'm like, you know, in my room and there's nobody around me, like listening or waiting for the results. For me, I think the biggest, the thing that I'm most impressed about when it comes to freestyling is the timing of it. You know, that it's happening right now in front of everyone. But for me, when I write things, sometimes I need time. You know, and that's just the most impressive thing for me.
Yeah.
Is the timing of freestyling.
How do you just diving into stage performance, generally speaking? How do you prepare yourself for, you know, because it's the way I see it. I'm not the ideal stage performer because all I do is DJ, but like. I also do certain things to prepare for that. Just like if I need to like land the crowd or the stage, things like that, it helps. But then also like I feel like we all do different things to prepare ourselves differently, psychologically, physically, and just to like really psych yourself up. So you don't, you know, what things you find always work for you.
Well, I try not to prepare on the day of.
Prepare but not prepare.
Yes. Or I try not to overly prepare. I won't do a run through the day of, because if I sing the same song twice, the second time I sing it, I'll be thinking about what it was like the first time I sang it, you know, and then it becomes a little more methodical. And when I perform, I kind of want it to be raw and in the moment and what's truly there, and at least amount of premeditation possible. And so I'll definitely think of the songs that I want to perform based on the audience or the environment and stuff. I'll be like, we're gonna sing this theme on all the songs that are kind of in this particular theme. Sometimes I'll make up the lineup on the spot, reading the room. And thankfully I have that kind of flexibility, because when I do perform, it's just me and my guitar. So I can do whatever I want. Essentially, I don't have to talk to a band or the guy who's playing tracks, you know. It's just me and the guitar, and I can do whatever I want. So I try not to be too prepared, because I know all my songs. I know all of them, and I don't have to go through them again to remember.
You sometimes, right in the middle of your set, you're like, you know what, maybe I should sing this next song differently.
Actually, if I do something differently, it would be in the middle of singing that song.
Not thinking about it before. It's
right. I don't think, okay, when I play this song, I'm gonna do this and this and this. I'll be playing it and I'll be just going with it.
Let me give you a scenario, right? You're singing, people are seated, and this one person stands up, second person, and they're all clapping and they're all in rhythm. Just like, okay, like, do I need to do something to like keep the vibe going? You know?
Yeah, that's never happened before. But yeah, but you're right though. I definitely do read the room, and when I can tell that people are real sensitive about what I'm saying or what I'm singing, I'll be really sensitive, you know, and then I guess I just make sure that I take the audience
to
with
relay the
me.
emotion to them also.
Yeah, usually what happens is they're following me mood-wise, and they'll go wherever I take them. Yeah.
The audiences sometimes shock you, like they react in ways you had not anticipated, and it starts to feel like a lot of work to engage them.
The only disappointment that I've gotten from audiences is when people shout out ignorant things.
Like what?
you know, when people are super bold in the audience and they're like, shout out a question. And it's some kind of a question about a pronunciation of a word. They're like, what were you saying? And it's like,
we can't hear you.
Obviously, I was saying this. You're just being a dick right now. You know?
They probably want some of your attention.
Yeah,
For
or
themselves.
maybe they want attention themselves.
For themselves, for you, for themselves. You know, the moment.
Right.
Yeah, did you see she
so
talked to
right
me?
off your...
Right.
All eyes are on you, so if I...
Yeah, man, she talked to me. You saw that?
One scenario that comes to mind, I was singing my song Exhale that has a Swahili word in it, kelele, right? And if you've heard me sing that song before, it's pretty clear that I'm saying kelele.
Yeah.
I know how to pronounce that word. Often I introduce that song by saying it has a Swahili word in it and it means loud noise or noises, and it's kelele.
Yeah.
Anyway, so one time there was this one girl who shouted afterwards. She was like, "What was that? You were saying kalala?"
What?
And I was like, this fucking bitch. Come on.
I knew it was a girl.
Yeah, it
I
was.
thought it was a boy, but
Nah.
I knew it was a girl.
It was a girl, and I was like, you know, she put me on the spot, and there's a whole crowd there, and I'm like, no, it's actually kelele that I was singing, you know, and I had to be elegant and eloquent in the face of.
You know? Like, if it was up to me, I would
Yeah.
choke you right now.
Right.
Is that the most
That has happened a couple of
aggressive you've got from a crowd?
It's probably not, but it's the only thing that comes to my mind right now in this moment.
Maybe you've learned to just to deal with it so casually and like you don't think too much about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I can handle those situations pretty well externally, just because of all of the work that I've done in the service industry. Someone can be really, really mean to me. And then I can just switch on my little tray holding, phone answering self.
Hello.
Right. And I can respond to them with
Yes, sir.
poise,
Yes, ma'am.
with elegance, with eloquence, because that is what this situation requires of me in this moment.
Oh, we're very sorry
And-
about that.
Right.
But you know what? It's
You know-
kelele, bitch.
Right. And I'm going to make you look and feel very stupid in the moment because I know exactly what I'm doing and what I'm talking about, and I can articulate it clearly.
Yeah.
Right.
Have
I get a kick out of that.
you ever faced a situation where you felt like you were being set up? And the way I'm trying to phrase this question is I want you to get the context of,
That sounds like it's coming from a Nemesis experience.
yeah,
Tell us.
let's say someone in the crowd, like that girl who said, you trying to say kololo? Like, what if her intention is actually to drive the pack of the audience to her so that through her, they fuck your shit up?
I don't know.
Has it ever felt like that, or?
I don't think so.
I see.
People aren't mean to me that often. Like aggressively mean. It's more like passive aggressive, like just comments, bitchy comments, you know? People aren't actually out to get me that I know of.
Yeah.
I mean, but if they
I guess.
if they did something like that, you have never, like that heckler of sort, you've never felt like that heckler, I mean, not necessarily out to get you, but that has the potential of having its own momentum on itself against you. And in that moment, how do you, because what I'm trying to ask is, if it has never happened, if you think about such a thing happening, how would you handle it? If you felt like, wow, one of the cards just fell down and it seems like all the other cards are going to fall now, what would you do?
Well, I honestly don't feel like that situation would be so hard to deal with because I'm actually really intentional about all of my content, all of my words, what I stand for. And so all I would really have to do is sort of reinforce all of those things in an articulate way, and if someone doesn't vibe with it, it will be obvious that they're not vibing with it, and that's okay. I feel like all you would really need is confidence.
I agree, but
You know, that hecklers can only heckle you if you're insecure.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, not necessarily. Every artist, once you get up on that pedestal, whether you like it or not, you're insecure just because of the difference in stance. That's why some artists do prefer to penetrate the crowd, to turn the cards on themselves. It's a technique of performance sometimes. Or jumping in the crowd and the crowd holds you. It's like something we were watching yesterday on the screen.
I'm not in Hootie and the Blowfish anymore, y'all. Doing my own thing.
What do you mean in Hootie? Because you are Hootie, man. Come on, everybody.
No. All right, now stop it. I'm not Hootie. I'm Darius Rucker. All right? I used to be the front man for a band called Hootie and the Blowfish. All right, but I was never Hootie. There was never a Hootie.
Just if I may ask, where are the Blowfish at, right, guys? Blowfish.
That one person, right?
I love these guys.
But you see how he's riding everyone else?
Yes.
The Blowfish, y'all. Okay? The whole band was just called Hootie and the Blowfish. That's it. It was a nonsense name. Like Hoobastank or Toad the West Sprocket.
Oh.
It's like, oh.
I see. I get it now. I understand. Hey, we gotta pick, y'all. We gotta choose between Hootie or the Blowfish. So who wants to see the Blowfish?
There's no Blowfish.
And who wants to see Hootie?
Hey, that hurts my feelings, y'all.
Yeah, but you said you weren't Hootie.
No, I'm not, sir. But in the question you just asked the audience, I was clearly Hootie.
So you are Hootie.
I'm not, though.
He is Hootie.
That's a Q&A session on stage, man. Embrace.
You know? Someone just
What
for
was
their
it?
own condition stands up and says, hey,
Yes.
but I thought you're Jess. I saw you last time. You're Jess. And you're like, yeah, but today I'm Nyara. And they're like, well, so are you Jess or Nyara? Just for the fuck of it.
Have you ever had the experience where you've just lost the crowd?
No.
Even as a dancer, no?
No. I haven't.
Well,
I think it takes a certain crowd size for that to even be possible. I think at a certain point you hit these sorts of numbers where you go from playing to crowds of 100 to 1,000, or maybe for 100, but I think once you hit that crowd of 1,000, then they kind of can dictate a show a bit more sometimes.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Where they can sort of seize a bit more control because you have to really be harnessing their power as much as you can. And that's a lot of power to harness.
I guess if I've ever performed in sort of a semi-public place, I have done that before in New Zealand in February. I performed and I invited my whole family to this bar, so a lot of the people there was my family, and they were there to hear me, but then there was a whole bunch of other people around too. And, you know, people are drinking their drinks and having their conversations and whatever, and that doesn't affect me. It's like, if I'm performing in a public place, I don't need silence in the audience, you know? Because I think that background music is cute too, you know? And I also think that my vibe works as background music as well, you know? And it doesn't upset me when people are having a conversation while I'm performing because they're just living their lives at a bar having a drink with their friends. Yeah, that doesn't throw me off
there
at
is
all.
there is a case though. If we have gone out to watch Nyara perform, right? All eyes on you, all ears on you, right? And knowing it has happened before for some, I was doing sound for a performance, and there was just a group of people right at the front, and they was like really loud and like really not caring about, you know?
Rowdy.
And yeah, and the artist stopped performing and was like, I would appreciate if someone else who would care to watch, you know, what's on stage,
Would be at the
sit
front.
where you are, and if you don't mind, you go to the back.
Yeah.
That was quite a polite way of putting it. Like, you know what, something is happening here, and I would like full attention, right? And most times, like I said, if you're a singer, songwriter, performer with, you know, just vocals and guitar,
Really lyrical type
you know,
content.
yeah, and like there's only two things happening: you strumming your guitar and you singing. There's no drama, no other musicians to, you know, to
Fill in all the gaps.
How would you handle that? Would you ask them to leave, or would you incorporate them as they are rowdy within your set so that you steal their attention even without them knowing that you have?
say there's 50 people,
Yeah.
and there's 4 right in front of you that are just, what the hell is going on right there?
I would probably
Laughing and
ignore
what-
them.
and everyone else is like, you know, watching, and clearly you can also see everyone else is irritated by what's going on there, and you sort of feel like to help the majority, you need to silence these.
Right. Well, I
might
would
be-
ignore them personally. If I was on stage and if I was performing, I wouldn't acknowledge them at all. But I think that's what your sort of crowd is for. Your whether it be your personal assistant, whether it be your friend, like having people in your corner at your shows. I have a friend, her name is Kira. If there were people rowdy at my performance, she would have absolutely no problem being like,
She's the one.
shut up.
Word.
You know, and so that's what friends are for.
Yeah.
And or managers at the
Man,
venue.
I kid you not, most singer-songwriters have that person.
Right. I would have someone else do that for me. Or I would just ignore them if I was completely alone.
One of the things I have struggled with as a creative is first, to give you a bit of context, some guy came to studio and robbed our mics. Yeah, I won't mention the name, but this is a creative. And the space we walk in is, we have good faith. You know, we know that, okay, these mics, these computers, these things, they're what,
Everything in here is
yeah,
for the good of
they're
it.
what
Right.
gives us momentum. The wind in our sack is here.
This all serves all of
You
us,
know?
so we don't want to take that away from any of us.
And it's not because we're rich, you know. Everybody has problems, but nobody's gonna poke a hole in that sack, you know, just to patch something up on their shot. When you know that this is what it is, you're gonna get more shots from this anyway, new shots.
Yeah.
You know, so when that happened, it made me think about. I remember being against the team in the beginning.
Not so much of a team
because
player.
I was an underdog. I mean, this is not necessarily creative, but it is where I started from to see myself as a creative. Is one guy was doing, he had a rap for a girl. No, he wasn't rapping for the girl. We were just taking notes in class. We were like 10. And he was rapping Eminem's song. And she liked the fact that he was rapping. And she's like, yo, would you teach me how to rap? And he's like, nah, because he's a cool kid, you know. And I'm like, she's cute. I'm going to learn how to rap, you know. So I went home, crammed some
Is
lyrics.
that how it started?
That's literally how it started.
Oh, the origins of Nemesis.
But I mean, that's like a subset. It's like one of those strata of what made it, but not necessarily. Like when it became
A layer.
serious, it wasn't that. But the spark, I could say, I cannot deny that was it. So when I cram some Eminem lyrics, I come back, rap for the girl. I had to bite my tongue like 5 times. That guy was super fast, you know. But I come back, my
What
tongue
song was
all
it?
patched together. I think the real Slim Shady.
I'm saying shit.
Who's there? Please stand up. Please stand up. Yeah, whatever. And tongue twisters and shit. So I remember her taking me seriously and asking me the same question, realizing that, wow, she's just into rap. She's not even into him because of that. Even though initially I thought so. And then I was more of an underdog because I felt like everyone else had their own thing going on, but I was trying to get into the thing, even though I felt like we were at the same level or if I was better. But the moment they let me in, let's say to spar, you know, just friendly sparring, like how puppies fight with each other, you know, I then started to know that, oh, I'm not the omega. I'm actually a beta or alpha among this pack, you know? And that, realizing that at a young age, knowing that someone could be famous or the popular guy in the group just because everyone thinks so, but not necessarily because the skills are like that. And then tangling with the boys and figuring out that, wow, my skills are actually better, but they don't necessarily mean I'm the head of the pack. I decided, what if I draw myself away from the pack now, you know, to see if they will follow me. Once I did that as a kid, I realized it would always happen. Once you proved yourself and moved away from the pack would follow you. So I had no concept of a team. All I had was a concept of crowds and fans and taking them by force. Secondary school, I was 13. I remember these guys the cool boys again, coming around looking for who knows how to rap. You know how to rap?
A lot of cool kids.
Yeah. I mean, if you're rapping, you're dealing with the cool kids. Rapping, basketball, that type of stuff. Anyway.
I was never a cool kid.
The kids are coming around asking, you know how to rap? Who knows how to rap? Who wants to be part of the cool kids and shit? And I remember feeling iffy about it because even hearing the big boys, like 6 years, 7 years older, hearing them do their thing and knowing that, oh, maybe you have a little bit of more technique, but it's not that big of a gap that I can't bridge and beat you. You know, I realized that I don't need a team. But growing up, I then saw the value of a team, which was so huge. Like what you were talking about, like, what's her name again?
Kira.
Yeah. Like Kira, like the value of Kira coming in and, you know, shouldering your burden and muscling in and being like, I had to feel like you see my point of why I look at the crowd like it's mine.
Right, because you stand on your own.
Yeah. Tim and I have been on stage many times, right?
Yeah.
Either he's like, you know, hyping an artist I'm DJing for, or he's genuinely part of the set.
Yeah.
And he, in his own right, he's featured artist on that stage.
True.
Right?
He gives it its own fabric.
Yeah, or I'm just like, man, you know what, we're going to do this together. Or sometimes he sees that something is not right, and we need to buff ourselves up so we don't get shook easily. And that's just the thing, like we learned to read situations, because every time, like, the thing about DJs is that everybody wants the stage for themselves, and you always want to make sure that the guy who comes after you give him hell, because nobody wants to make it easy for the guy after you, because it's like, I have worked so hard and my name and the crowd is so hyped, so before I leave, I'm going to turn off the gas.
Oh, they do that?
Yeah.
I thought you meant in terms of I'm going to hype this crowd so that by the time you come, you're the one turning off the gas.
Team, not so. Like, so many guys.
They turn off the gas? How?
And, like, it might even be a thing of, like, he will take so long to set down that there is no music for some time. Right? And that whole transition between, you know, and they're just like, dude, this wasn't necessary. Like, we could have made this easy for everyone. And now you have to, like, start from scratch.
Out here, man.
And you start to play music. And then the other thing is, if the other way of turning down the gas is they'll play. People always know each other. Like, unless you don't know what a certain DJ is going to play, but like the usual, like, selectors. Let me put it that way. People who play crowd favorites. You want to play all the hit songs in that moment in like 30 minutes, right? you know, the stage manager comes in and is like, dude, 30 minutes and you're out. And it's like, cool. Let me max it 30 minutes. And he plays like 60 songs in 30 minutes. 100 songs in 30 minutes. And the crowd is just, so you'll do yourself a disservice by playing any of the songs that he played already. That means if you had planned to play any of the hit songs, you're done for. Like, you have to like reset everything
immediately.
You know,
That's wicked.
DJs sound like real dicks to each other.
so
Sound
much.
like they're the worst people to each other.
You know, and I remember this one time at Nyege, I was playing. This was one of those times where the set was like very calculated, and we had planned like after this song, we had this. It was like a project artist that we had come up with called Wana. And we were supposed to be playing Coupe de Kale, which is like a West African genre, right? Very like, it's like Lingala, but it's not Lingala.
Pacey.
Yeah, very like, you know, sukus, those vibes. Yeah. And we were playing after a reggae DJ. Right? And so we set up early. The good thing is the transition was so smooth because as soon as this guy is done, you either like introduce yourself or the stage, whatever, like introduces the next set, the next act, which is like literally 5 seconds.
Yeah.
You know, so like it's very smooth. And this guy's like, so who are you? You know? And we're just like, I'm Wana, this is Thomas. It's like, cool. You know, he has like 5 minutes to go. Like, cool, so what are you playing? And like, so we're playing Coupe de Kale. He's like, so what's that? You think they like it? You know? And he started to become like, okay, what's going on here? And it's like, so what does it sound like? And at that time, I started to get very cagey. I didn't know what he was trying to do.
The questions he was asking.
Yeah, right? And so he's like, so what's the first song you're going to play? And I was very open. I showed him the set list and I was like, this is what I'm going to play next. Shockingly, he went into his own playlist and I was like, so I'll make this smooth for you so it doesn't feel like there's, you know, a bridge. You know, he tried to make the transition really easy. And he gets the mic and he's like, yo, give it up for... He didn't even say thank you. He just bigged us up. And he played a song that was a very nice transition from his set to our set. And it helped. Up to this day, that guy, I respect him.
Yeah.
And do you know what's so funny?
I think that's how it should be.
All the way leading up to the end of that story, I was feeling like he fucked it. He did something.
You know, right?
What did he do?
Yeah.
He did what?
Exactly.
And
but
he
did a good thing.
He only helped.
He was genuinely invested in the people,
Wow.
Right.
not who is playing.
I don't know so many of those
And the
guys,
purpose.
Just what that one person did gave me faith, you know, in the art.
man. Yeah.
And then you paid it forward to the
there are
next
people
guy.
who do this for the sake
love.
of for the love of it. And to this very day, that what that one person did changed how I think. Because, you know, if you're out there to bite a chunk of the other person's meat, then that's always how it's going to be.